This is a flashback to when Kaladin was about 10 years old. So this is 9 years before now. So about 3 years before the king was assassinated, King Gavilar. So in this chapter, Kaladin is at his house with his dad, who's a surgeon, and it's a scene where they're operating on a young woman's hand, her injured hand, and it's really interesting. We learned some world building here. So the heralds, Kalak, Jezrien from the Prelude, we learned that they are considered sort of godlike beings, and it's really some cool sort of foreshadowing, I guess you would call it, that I did not understand my first read through, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense because the surgeon, the dad, he tells him how like you have to wash your hands before you operate on people. We don't really know why, but that's what the heralds taught the people. They were sent here to teach everybody. So just little things like that. It's really interesting. We also hear the Knights Radiant mentioned for the first time, and Kaladin and his dad have this whole conversation about how there's two types of people, those who save and those who kill. Kaladin thinks you can kill in order to save other people, and his dad does not agree.
So 12-year-old Kaladin is hanging out with his little brother Tien and a girl named Laurel. Cal and Laurel kind of like each other, and they don't even realize it yet. So Cal tells her that his dad wants him to train as a surgeon, and she's like, I thought you wanted to be a soldier and, maybe win a shard blade and become a light eyes like me. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, he wants me to be a surgeon. I don't know what I'm going to do. So she gets kind of mad at him. So they see some older kids nearby. They go and talk to them. Cal accidentally insults one of them, and they get into a fight. Laurel is egging this fight on because she's kind of mad at Cal. So Cal gets beat up, but while he was fighting, he felt the thrill of fighting with a staff for the first time in his life, and he was just totally enthralled by it. So he asks this kid, will you teach me how to fight? Will you please train me? And the guy's like, no, I'm not going to train you. Go home. So Cal goes home, and he finds out from his dad that the city lord, the light-eyed city lord, who is Laurel's father, has just died, and as his last act to ensure the future health of his people, he's given Cal's father a bag full of spheres in order to send Cal to be trained as a surgeon. 13-year-old Cal tries his best to save a little girl, a 5-year-old girl who fell, and she broke her leg, she hit her head, and he is able to cauterize the wound on her leg. It was bleeding. He's able to stop the bleeding, tie a tourniquet on there and all this stuff, but he's not able to save the little girl. Her head wound causes her to die, and he's really upset about it. So the family is obviously upset, but even Cal is like really, really emotionally traumatized by this. And he's just freaking out, and he's talking about like he can heal physical wounds, but what is there to heal these emotional wounds that he's feeling? So his dad comes, and his dad tells him, you have to learn when to care and when to let go. You'll see. You'll grow calluses. And Cal is like, I don't want to be a surgeon. This sucks. And yeah, that's the whole chapter.
Back in Hearthstone, 13-year-old Cal overhears some women gossiping about his family. They say that Lirin, his dad, actually stole that bag of spheres that Bright Lord Wistio gave him to pay for Kaladin's education. So Cal is pretty upset about this. He goes and talks to his mom for a little while, and then Lirin, again his dad, comes running up, and he's like, hey, Bright Lord Roshon is almost here, the replacement for Bright Lord Wistio. So the whole town is gathered to see this guy arrive. Everyone's gawking and amazed that he has 4 horses. Can you believe it? The dude stops his carriage, he steps out, and he sort of sneers at everybody. And then Lirin is like, hey, Bright Lord Roshon, how was your trip, man? And the guy's like, who are you? And he's like, I'm the local surgeon, Lirin. And he's like, so you let old Wistio die. It's your fault I'm in this crap hole town. And then he just gets in his carriage and rolls on to the mansion. So, things are not looking too good. He doesn't seem very nice. Late at night, Lirin is getting a little drunk and venting his frustrations to his son, Cal. He finally has broken down, and he admits that he's not a respected member of the community and the people don't trust him. Lirin has always refused to charge for his medical services, and his family has always depended on the charitable donations of the townspeople to survive. But recently, the new city lord, Roshon, implied that if Lirin was too foolish to charge, then he shouldn't get paid, and immediately the people stopped donating. So Cal tries to convince him to use the spheres that Bright Lord Wistio left for his family, and Lirin says, no, that's exactly what Roshon wants, we're not going to do that. Suddenly, there's some banging at the door. This group of masked figures are outside, and they're insisting
They're demanding the spheres. They're threatening violence. Cal is very scared. Lehman pulls out the spheres, illuminates the men, and it turns out they're not some highwaymen traveling through the town. They are locals. They're people that Liren has cured and treated before. Liren says, "Beat me up if you want them," and the cowards slink away into the night.
Cal's mom has lost her job, so the whole family is basically just surviving on the charitable donations of the townspeople, which are given to them in secret because everyone's afraid of Bright Lord Roshon. So Roshon invites Liren to come dine with him at the mansion. He goes, and Cal, who's about 15 years old, convinces him to let him tag along as well. So they go, and they're eating with Roshon. Roshon's just being a jerk and trying to intimidate them. Liren is a boss. He will not be intimidated. Roshon tells him, "Give me back those spheres you stole." And Liren's like, "I didn't steal them. They were given to me." And then he tells Cal to go into the kitchen to get some food. Cal has an encounter with Laurel, his childhood friend, and this boy named Relir, who is Roshon's son. And it's ugly. Cal's very angsty. This kid Relir is like typical rich kid jerk face, and Cal's upset about that. And then Laurel doesn't treat him very nicely either. And then on the way home, he finds out that Liren actually did steal those spheres from Wistio, and his whole world is rocked. Kaladin is helping Liren in the surgery room. Bright Lord Roshon and his son Relir went hunting for a white spine, which is some sort of dangerous creature, and they got messed up. So now they're getting operated on, and it's a complete mess. Blood everywhere. They're seriously injured. Liren starts working on Relir, but pretty soon he realizes he's too far gone. So he switches over to Roshon, and Roshon tells him, "Hey, surgeon, you better heal my son." He's like, "Your son's already dead." He's like, "No, he's not. I can see him moving." He's like, "His wounds are so bad, I can't heal him. I'm just going to focus on you. He's a goner." Roshon is not happy about that at all. And while Liren is operating on Roshon, he takes the white spine tusk out of his leg, and it still has some like splinters in his leg, and one of them is very close to the femoral artery. And with his knife, he comes very close to actually cutting his femoral artery, but he looks at Kaladin, and he sees he's there, and he says, "No, I can't do that." And he goes out. So Kaladin and Liren are talking about it later, and he says, "Yeah, like I almost killed him, but I wouldn't have done it." And Kaladin's like, "I would have." Kaladin hates the weeping. It's this time of year when it just sort of softly rains for 4 weeks with a high storm in the middle. He also hates the fact that his father has been slowly spending the spheres that he got from Bright Lord Wistio. But his mom assures him, "Hey, don't worry. We're only spending the spheres slowly so that Roshon will think that he's sort of winning and he'll get off our backs." High Marshal Amaram, he's a warlord in charge of protecting this area of Alethkar. He's in town looking for recruits, but Kaladin is no longer interested in joining the military. He's fully committed to becoming a surgeon. So they ask for volunteers. They don't get quite enough. So Roshon, it's his legal right to choose anybody he wants to send to the military, to force them into service. And he can't choose Kaladin because he's essential to the town. He's the apprentice to the surgeon. He chooses Tien, his little brother. This is really upsetting. Tien is just a kid. He's like 100% gonna die. And this is Roshon's revenge for Liren letting Relir die, Roshon's son. So Kaladin volunteers to go with Tien, and he promises to bring him home safely. So you remember the first chapter of the book when that kid Sen died in Kaladin's squad? Yeah, we get to relive that. Thanks a lot, Sanderson. So we see chapter 1, which was called Stormblessed, or Stormblessed. We see it over again, but from Kaladin's perspective in this chapter. So he's fighting in Amaram's army. It's been 4 years since he joined. Unfortunately, during that time, Tien has died. We don't know how. We didn't get to see it. But Tien has died. So now Kaladin bribes other squad leaders to give him their young new recruits so he can keep them safe. It's like this thing that he just feels he needs to do. So he sees his little brother in these new recruits. The Shardbearer shows up, and Sen dies, Dalit dies, like almost all of Kaladin's men dies. It's an amazingly written action scene. He kills the Shardbearer. Kaladin kills the Shardbearer. It's freaking incredible. So everybody's telling him, "Take the Shardblade, become a Light Eyes." He says, "I don't want it." He gives it to one of his men, and he walks away. I completely forgot to mention in chapter 47, the last flashback chapter, that the reason Kaladin was rushing to kill that Shardbearer is because that Shardbearer was about to kill Amaram, who was wounded on the ground. So he was rushing to save his commanding officer, who is the only honorable Light Eyes that Kaladin has ever known. So in the aftermath of that event, only 4 of Kaladin's 26 spearmen survive. Now Kaladin is in Amaram's war center. Amaram comes in with some soldiers and those 4 spearmen, and he asks Kaladin, why did he not take the Shardblade and the Shardplate? Kaladin can't really give him an answer. Really the reason is he hates the Light Eyes and he doesn't want to become one, but he doesn't say that to Amaram. So Amaram says, well, this is going to cause rumors. If you give the shard blade to someone else, I'm just going to take it because this is going to cause more trouble than it's worth. So he orders his men to slaughter the spearmen. Kaladin, of course, freaks out, and he's like, you could have asked me for him. Amaram says, yeah, but you would have changed your mind a couple days later anyway. So as an act of mercy, since you saved my life, I'm going to spare yours. He brands him as a slave. And then Kaladin, he's exhausted. He starts thinking about the day that Tien died. We get to see that flashback. Tien was a messenger boy in Amaram's army. He got pulled into battle. He wasn't prepared. He was actually used as a decoy. And Kaladin was rushing to save him, and he sees him get cut down, and he watches him die. It's this horrible moment. So what do you think? Did I miss anything important? Let me know in the comments below.